Your mom and dad are really sick. You have to come back home right away. I begged Tyler to help, but he was mean. He said, I'm busy with my friends. Deal with it yourself. You're probably making it sound worse than it is, right? I gotta go. I tried to talk to him again, but he hung up on me. 2 weeks later, when Tyler got home, I told him, they're both gone. Their funerals are done. Tyler looked shocked and confused. What do you mean both? Are you joking? He asked me, scared. No joke. I called you 2 weeks ago about your mom and dad being very sick, I told him. But why didn't you tell me earlier? Tyler was speechless. My name is Jessica Atkins. I'm 56, and I take care of the house full-time. I used to work at an office, but I quit when I got married. I met Tyler in college. I joined the tennis club because a friend asked me to. I didn't know how to play. I just wanted to have fun. But Tyler, who was in charge, was serious about tennis. He'd get mad if you couldn't keep up during practice. Because I was new at tennis, I couldn't even hit the ball with my racket, and Tyler would get mad at me. He'd say, Jessica, seriously, you're just getting in the way. Go do something else, and make me leave the court. His words made me feel really embarrassed. Most of the time, I was only allowed to pick up the balls, hardly ever getting to play. I got so frustrated that I practiced tennis at home. Maybe all that practice paid off. One day, when Tyler served the ball, I hit it back really well. Tyler looked surprised because he thought I'd miss. But then he said, Jessica, that was amazing, with a big smile. In that moment, I realized I had feelings for him. After that, Tyler kept being strict, and I kept trying hard to keep up with his tough training. Then one day, after a while, we were out with friends for our monthly get-together. We do this to strengthen our friendships outside of our usual group activities. On our way home from one of these gatherings, it was just me and Tyler. Suddenly, he told me he had feelings for me. Jessica, I've fallen for you. I want us to be together. I was surprised. Tyler had never shown any signs of liking me before. But I also had feelings for him. So I said, I like you too. Let's give it a try. That was the start of our relationship. Tyler wanted to keep our relationship a secret from our club friends to not affect the team spirit. But I was so in love with him at that time. I was just happy to be with him. We kept dating even after we finished college, and we got married when I was 26. I quit my job as Tyler asked when we got married. I'll always be there for Tyler, I thought. At that time, I was deeply in love, imagining a bright future with Tyler. It's been 30 years since Tyler and I tied the knot. In the beginning, we went on lots of dates and were really close. But as time passed, things started feeling a bit ordinary. Even I didn't put as much effort into my looks as I did when I was younger. I used to wear trendy clothes and always look stylish when going out with Tyler. I remember spending a lot of time on my makeup, but now I'm more relaxed about how I dress. Comfort is key for me these days, so I prefer loose skirts with elastic waists over ones with zippers. Since I stay home most of the time, I don't bother with makeup from morning to night. I can't even remember the last time I wore any. Some people might think I've let myself go. Compared to my younger days, my body has changed quite a bit. I used to be slim, but not anymore. I've gained weight and now look like the before pictures you see on weight loss shows. Maybe this change in how I look is one reason why our relationship feels routine now. Over time, I've noticed Tyler treating me more like a mom than a wife. Even though I'm not his mother, he sometimes jokes, Mom, can I get another coffee? By the way, Tyler's mom still lives nearby, about a 10-minute walk from us, along with his dad. But we live in separate homes. My in-laws are really kind and always worry about me. Because they're so caring, I wanted to support them, so I visited them a lot. But recently, their health has been getting worse. My father-in-law is fighting a serious illness, and the doctors say there's not much more they can do. With tears in his eyes, he told my mother-in-law and me, I want to spend my last days at home. So he left the hospital and is now getting special care at home. Taking care of my father-in-law all by herself, my mother-in-law looks exhausted and she seems really sad. As a stay-at-home wife, I help take care of my in-laws almost every day, but I know it must be really hard for my mother-in-law to live with him all the time. It's tough, Jessica. Could you stay with us just for one night? She asks me, looking vulnerable. I'm sorry. Tyler comes home at night, I say, even though it hurts to turn her down. I understand. My mother-in-law says sadly when I say no. Every night, I have to take care of Tyler. Tyler is a very bossy husband and never helps with anything around the house. He just leaves his dirty socks everywhere. I have to make sure dinner is ready and warm when Tyler gets home. There's no way I can serve leftovers. If he finds out, he'll get really angry. Once I was late getting home because I was taking care of my father-in-law. When I finally got back, Tyler was furious. You should put me first instead of my dad. I'm your family, remember? He yelled at me, his face all red. I wanted to remind him that my father-in-law is his family too. But I stayed quiet because I knew arguing would only make things worse. Because of moments like this, I'd always have to prioritize Tyler. Every day feels so tight and stressful. As a stay-at-home wife, I feel guilty and can't stand up to Tyler. I couldn't help my sad mother-in-law. I could only look at her with worry. Lately, Tyler's been coming home late a lot, and he never tells me. Sometimes, he even comes home on the last train. You're late again. Tyler came home after midnight one night. I'm back, he said happily. His face was red, and he seemed a bit drunk. Did you go drinking again? You've been coming home late so often. I asked, taking the bag he handed me. I'd earned the money, so I'll spend it how I want, Tyler replied. But you're just a stay-at-home wife, so you should just obey me, Tyler replied gruffly. But don't you think it's happening too often? Who are you going out with all the time? Their families might be worried too, I hesitantly asked Tyler. Maybe you're making people go drinking with you. You've been with the company for so long and hold a high position. It's hard for most people to say no to that. Tyler replied with a smug smile. It's fine. I always go drinking with the same coworker. Plus, he lives alone and is single. He's always happy when I buy him a drink, Tyler said smugly. I couldn't say anything back. Being a stay-at-home wife without much say in things, I had an idea and decided to talk to Tyler about it. Could you tell me beforehand when you're going out for drinks? Your mom seems really stressed, and your dad's not doing well either. I want to be there for them as much as possible. But Tyler laughed off my concerns. No way. I go out when I feel like it. Besides, Mom will handle Dad. Jessica, you should be all for me. As I was shocked by Tyler's harsh words, he said, Stop standing there and get the bath ready. You're so slow with it, and he quickly went to the bathroom. Yes, I'm sorry. All I could do was reply like that. Then one day, Tyler suddenly said to me, I'm going on a trip for 2 weeks starting next week. While I stood there in shock, Tyler cheerfully looked through a guidebook, thinking about what he'd eat. And he was planning to go to Australia. Regaining my composure, I asked Tyler, Why the sudden international trip? What about your job? And I don't even have a passport. Tyler seemed a bit annoyed by my questions. I got a bonus, so I thought I'd just go for it. I've already asked for time off from work, and I'm not taking you, Jessica, so you don't need a passport, right? Tyler answered casually. We haven't even had a proper honeymoon since we got married. Who are you going with? I asked Tyler. Even for day trips, Tyler would say it's a waste of money and never took me along. Now this sudden international trip, it seemed suspicious. I looked at Tyler intently. I'm going with a coworker, Tyler replied. Now hurry up and get dinner ready. I realized it would be hard to question him further. Tyler probably wouldn't answer me if I kept asking, and he might even get angry. Though I felt frustrated, I reluctantly started preparing dinner. And on that day, Tyler set off for his trip early in the morning. But by noon, I found myself desperately calling him. What do you want? I'm about to board a plane for an international trip. Can't you see I'm busy? Tyler snapped at me as soon as he answered. My in-laws are in critical condition. Please, can't you cancel your trip and come home immediately? I pleaded desperately with Tyler. If he hadn't boarded the plane yet, there was still time, or so I thought. But Tyler's response was harsh. I'm on vacation with my colleague. Deal with it on your own. You're probably making it sound worse than it is. I'm busy. Gotta go now. Bye. Wait a second. I tried to reach out to Tyler, but he hung up on me anyway. No matter how many times I called back, he didn't answer. You'll regret this, I muttered to myself. 2 weeks later, I'm back. Tyler came in cheerfully, carrying a big suitcase. I went up to Tyler, feeling angry and upset, and said, both their funerals are over. What? Tyler looked confused, like he didn't understand. What do you mean by both their funerals? Are you playing some kind of sick joke? Tyler panicked, questioning me. I sighed deeply at Tyler's reaction. It's not a joke. Don't you remember? I called you 2 weeks ago, telling you your parents were really sick. I reminded Tyler. But why so suddenly? Tyler trailed off, unable to find the words, and I found myself sitting on the floor. When I went to see your parents, they both had collapsed and looked really pale. I called an ambulance in a panic, but the doctors said they were both in critical condition. Your dad needed care for a while, and your mom hadn't been well lately. It was just a series of unfortunate events. I explained to Tyler, feeling detached as I recounted what had happened leading up to my in-laws' critical condition. I'm heartbroken that my in-laws ended up like this. I was at their house almost every day and still couldn't save them in time. To this day, I regret not going there sooner. But right now, I'm just so angry at Tyler. My in-laws are his real parents, yet Tyler chose himself over them until the very end. No matter how much I begged, Tyler always put himself first. Remembering the tired look on my mother-in-law's face just makes me even angrier at Tyler. I said to Tyler, who remained silent with a grim expression. He probably can't accept what happened. I decided to confront Tyler further. It's your fault, isn't it? Choosing a trip with your colleague over your own parents. Did you have a good time on your vacation? I asked Tyler, trying to hide my anger with a sly smile. But Tyler just stayed silent. So I decided to poke a little further. Well, I guess going on a trip with your lover is fun, right? But 2 weeks seems a bit long. When I said that, Tyler, almost resigned, started to speak. You knew? Yeah, I've been seeing Baker from work. She's over 10 years younger than you, and she's been comforting me. It was clear that Tyler was indeed having an affair. His recent late nights were probably because of this Baker. As I remained silent, Tyler, thinking I had accepted his confession, continued to talk. Baker is nothing like you. She's slim, beautiful, and she has a job. You don't compare to her. Tyler was obviously proud of himself. Not bothered at all. I responded casually. He seemed to forget that he had asked me to become a stay-at-home wife after we got married. Then, as if he had an idea, Tyler made a suggestion. Exactly. Now that my parents are gone and there's no one to object, we can get a divorce and I can live here with Baker. So, leave right now. I was shocked by Tyler's words. Until now, I had been a stay-at-home wife, always going along with whatever Tyler said. I didn't have a steady income of my own, and part of me lacked the confidence to move out and support myself. But after seeing Tyler prioritize a trip with his mistress over his critically ill parents, I didn't want to stay with him anymore. Fine, I'll leave right now. Goodbye, and with that, I packed a few essentials and left the house. A week later, I found myself staying at a budget motel. My husband Tyler called my cell phone. Hello? As soon as I picked up, Tyler spoke up. I can't find the checkbook at home. He sounded really panicked. But I left all the statements under Tyler's name at the house. That includes the bank book where Tyler's salary is deposited. The only checkbook I took is in my name. Did you check properly? As soon as I said that, Tyler shouted, It's the checkbook in your name. That account had a pretty good amount of money, right? It's joint property, so half of it's mine, isn't it? After spending recklessly on trips and such, I couldn't believe Tyler was now talking about joint property. Holding back a heavy sigh, I calmly replied, The money in that checkbook is from gifts I received from my family and savings from when I was single, so it doesn't count as joint property. You know that. Tyler, sounding frantic, responded, "That's a problem. I nearly spent all of my last month's salary and bonus on the overseas trip. I thought I could cover the shortfall in our living expenses by withdrawing from your account. Up until now, I'd kept my checkbook in a drawer where Tyler could easily see it. I had no intention of hiding it from Tyler, so he must have seen the balance. I've moved out, Tyler, so I have no idea about your living expenses. Maybe ask for an advance on your paycheck." I firmly declined Tyler's request. Then, just to give Tyler a heads up, I added, "By the way, there's hardly any inheritance from your parents. They were living on their pensions, and with the cost of your father's care, they were barely getting by. And you better clear out their rented apartment soon, or you'll be paying rent every month." My in-laws have been living in a rented apartment, barely making ends meet with the rent and the cost of caring for my father-in-law. My mother-in-law somehow managed to save and get by each month. I reckon my mother-in-law had her share of worries and stress. "You're kidding." Tyler sounded shocked over the phone. So I decided to give Tyler the final blow. "I have no responsibilities to help you out. You are on your own," I declared cheerfully. "Why?" Tyler's voice was full of disbelief. Despite kicking me out without any income, he seemed to have forgotten that. "I hope they both lose their social credibility. I've got nothing left to lose. Whatever happens to them, it's none of my business. It's all my fault. Just help me out this time, please," Tyler pleaded with a voice full of desperation. "No way. You're going to regret this big time." I told him that and ended the call with Tyler. Tyler and I eventually went through with the divorce. Initially, Tyler resisted, mainly due to financial concerns, but he eventually caved in and signed the divorce papers after persuasion from my lawyer. Tyler always acted tough around me and my in-laws, but seemed submissive around others. He was all talk and no action, unable to stand up to a professional like my lawyer. Our properties were divided equally, thanks to my lawyer's efforts. Tyler had almost depleted his savings on a trip with Baker, so he was strapped for cash. My lawyer predicted Tyler would be uncooperative, but in the end, I was satisfied with the outcome. As for what happened afterward, it appears Tyler is struggling to make ends meet, living from one paycheck to the next. He has additional expenses like clearing out my in-laws' rental apartment and paying rent. Moreover, he was dumped by Baker after their affair was exposed. Initially, Baker was ambitious and used Tyler for her own gain, but she distanced herself once Tyler was demoted and she got transferred elsewhere. Tyler reached out to me through my lawyer, expressing regret and asking for another chance. Since I've blocked his calls, he's resorting to communicating through the lawyer. This desperate plea indicates he's truly cornered. He's even asked for financial help, requesting money from my savings from when I was single, which doesn't benefit me at all. Even the lawyer was surprised by this request. I hope Tyler continues to struggle. He deserves it for his actions. By the way, I reached out to Baker through my lawyer, and her response was surprisingly respectful. She conveyed, "While I was with Mr. Tyler, my expenses were minimal, so I enjoyed spending his money." But it didn't last long. She expressed deep regret for everything. It became evident that she was never truly interested in Tyler. Rather, she was attracted to his status. It's sad to see Tyler fall so hard for someone who didn't genuinely care about him. Reflecting on Tyler's downfall brought a smirk to my face. Since then, I've decided to rejoin the workforce. Can you believe it? I took up a part-time job at a convenience store. It's my first time in customer service, and surprisingly, I'm enjoying it. I was initially concerned about being on my feet all day, but once I started, time just flew by, and I found it quite enjoyable. Besides manning the register, there's tasks like stocking shelves, preparing snacks, and various other responsibilities at a convenience store. I even get to utilize my housekeeping skills with the cleaning duties. The manager mentioned that if I put in the effort, I could secure a permanent position. Apparently, there have been others in similar situations who successfully transitioned to full-time roles. Being in my 50s feels like I'm at the midpoint of life. Despite going through a divorce, I initially thought my future looked bleak. But even at this age, I'm discovering new experiences and having a great time. I'm determined to keep looking forward and moving ahead. That's my mindset right now. Jennifer, since you've married into this family, the understanding is that what's yours is also mine, isn't it? It's only natural. I might have spent around $30,000 in Florida, but you'll cover that expense, won't you? Not only do they look down on me, but my mother-in-law and Susan, my sister-in-law, have the audacity to take people's credit cards without permission and use them as they please. It appears they used about $30,000 during their trip to Florida. But is that really my credit card? Did they even bother to check before using it? They probably didn't even confirm whose name was on it. Naturally, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, who have been doing whatever they want, should face some painful consequences. It's too late for regrets and apologies. I am Jennifer, 31 years old, working as an office employee. Ryan and I have been married for 3 years, but we don't have any children yet. Recently, after discussing it with Ryan, we fulfilled our wish and bought our own home. We chose a 4-bedroom house so we can welcome children at any time and designed a spacious living room where everyone can gather. We do hope to have 2 or 3 children in the future. Ryan and I dream of building a cheerful home filled with laughter. However, now that we've bought a house, we have to work harder than ever to pay off the mortgage. This inevitably means that we have less time to make children. The reality of having to work to pay off the mortgage and the desire to have children has indeed caused us conflict and urgency. But the magic of the new house seems to purify these troubled feelings. The unique scent of a new house, the whiteness and cleanliness from floor to ceiling, make us proud. This healing space seems to be telling us there's no need to rush. Our journey to pregnancy might be a long one, but since we just started anew, we're going to work together and do our best. It was just after we had renewed our determination that, this new house vibe is really nice. Don't you think? New houses are really the best. Just a few days after moving into our new home, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law started coming to our house almost every day. I understand they want to see their son's or brother's newly purchased house, but when they come every day, it's irritating for both of us. We are utterly troubled by my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. If it were just daily visits, it might be tolerable, but this was just the beginning of even worse things to come. One night, while my mother-in-law and sister-in-law continued to do as they pleased in our home, one might think it's a typical family chat. However, this is taking place in the new house we purchased. Yes, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law are making themselves at home in our new place as if it's their own. Even if it's a family member's purchase, spending every day relaxing in a married couple's home seems to lack common sense. Furthermore, they don't hesitate to open the fridge to grab a beer. I find myself constantly dealing with the frustration of my mother-in-law and sister-in-law's behavior, which seems to have crossed all reasonable limits. They have taken it upon themselves to consume all the food I bought, intended to last for a week. Despite Ryan's repeated warnings, they continue to ignore any sense of restraint. Dinner, snacks, and even the beer are not spared. After devouring everything, they leave unwashed dishes in the sink and take showers at our house. Once they've completed this routine, they casually return to their own home. I can't help but wonder if they are facing difficulties, such as a lack of food or essential utilities like gas, electricity, or water. Thoughts like these cross my mind as I attempt to quell the irritation building up within me. Every opportunity they get, they extol the virtues of our new house, making themselves entirely at home each day. The frequency of their visits is taking a toll on us, and even Ryan is visibly upset. We've tried locking the door and pretending not to be home, hoping to discourage their daily intrusion. However, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law have resorted to causing a scene right outside the house. Concerned about the judgment of our new neighbors, we'd eventually relent and let them in. Although calling the police has crossed our minds, we hesitate to become the talk of the neighborhood. To our dismay, their visits have only grown more prolonged. Perhaps, in part, it's our fault for not being assertive enough. The daily intrusion has become unbearable, making me feel sick. My father-in-law suggests they go and relax at Ryan's place, indicating it's too noisy with the two of us around. Ironically, if they are aware of their noise, I wish they would show some consideration. On a particularly frustrating day, Ryan's late hours at work exacerbate the situation. My mother-in-law, ever intrusive, questions when I'll allow her to hold her grandchild. She bluntly labels a daughter-in-law who can't have children as a failure, intruding on sensitive issues, even within the confines of my own home. The stress was overwhelming, not to mention the constant disturbance from their late-night presence. With the noise they brought into our lives, the idea of even contemplating having children seemed like a distant dream. I wondered if they were aware of the impact their words had on us. While rummaging through the fridge was somewhat bearable, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law had recently escalated their intrusive behavior. Whenever I went to the bathroom or diverted my attention to chores, they would delve into my closet and meddle with my bags and accessories. Their audacity reached a new level when they attempted to take my wallet and stroll outside. "Susan, what are you doing? That's my wallet," I exclaimed in shock, taking it back. They responded nonchalantly, claiming they needed to buy liquor and expecting me to foot the bill. It was an absurd demand, and I firmly asserted that if they wanted to drink, they should use their own money. This encounter left them furious, insisting that it was only natural for me, Jennifer, to bear all the costs and entertain them. I couldn't comprehend their entitlement. If their visits were infrequent, I might have understood, but their intrusion had become a daily affair. Despite my wallet being unharmed, their behavior terrified me. To prevent a repeat, I started hiding my wallet where they couldn't find it, but they persisted in scouring the house whenever I looked away. I confronted them, expressing how their actions were beyond acceptable, but they responded with hostility, telling me to shut up and asserting that I, as a mere daughter-in-law, had no right to talk back. This continued until I fell ill. When Ryan's work finally allowed for a discussion, his anger erupted like a volcano. "What the hell are you two doing? Don't ever come to this house again. Get out," he thundered. Whether intimidated or scared, they left quietly that day. However, a lingering unease settled within me as I noticed a strange smile on their faces while departing. Something felt off, and it was deeply unsettling. 3 days have passed since we kicked out my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. The silence is a relief, and finally we can live without stress. Ryan and I, for the first time in a while, enjoyed an affectionate and stress-free time together. Just as we were reveling in this newfound tranquility, Ryan's phone rang, and his expression changed significantly after the call ended. I attempted to inquire about the call, but Ryan was gazing into space, seemingly lost in thought. His demeanor indicated something serious had happened. An overwhelming sense of anxiety washed over me. When Ryan finally spoke, what he revealed surpassed my worst imagination. It was the credit card company. My credit card had been fraudulently used. "What do you mean someone is using it?" I asked, startled. "It seems about $30,000 has been used," Ryan explained, his words leaving me astounded. "Fraudulently used in Florida," he continued. "Florida? Why Florida?" Ryan never carried his wallet on workdays, and he didn't engage in online shopping, making the situation even more perplexing. We were at a loss, unable to comprehend how this could have happened. "I've asked the credit card company to freeze the card for now," Ryan added, his frustration evident. While grappling with the implications, my phone rang. Glancing at the caller ID, it was the worst possible timing, a call from my mother-in-law. The incessant ringing irritated me, and though they were unaware of our situation, I felt the same way Ryan did. Ignoring the call didn't deter her persistence. Frustrated, I decided to answer. "Jennifer, what have you done?" Her voice was so loud I thought it might break my eardrums. It was not the time to be yelled at, and in an attempt to keep Ryan informed, I put her on speaker. Maintaining my composure, I questioned her incessant calls. Ignoring my inquiry, she exclaimed, "You stopped the credit card, didn't you? Now I can't use it. How are you going to fix this?" I was taken aback. "Wait, freeze the credit card? How does she know about that?" Suspicion crept in, and I asked if, by any chance, she was in Florida. "Yes, I'm in Florida. I'm on vacation with Susan, using my leave." "Why would you ask that? More importantly, why did you stop the credit card?" she replied. With those words, the situation became painfully clear. The culprits who had stolen and used the credit card were none other than my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. A mix of shock and dismay left us both speechless. "I noticed the wallet in your purse when you went to the bathroom the other day, so I just took the credit card, lol. After you kicked us out, we came straight to Florida." As angry as we were, not only did they do as they pleased in someone else's home, but what they did was the lowest of human actions. Ryan and I could no longer contain our anger. "Listen, Mother, even if we're family, taking and using someone else's credit card is a clear crime." I spoke with trembling anger. "What are you talking about? Lol. A crime? It's just using my daughter-in-law's credit card for a bit. Why would that be a crime? You're overreacting. We're family. It should be fine." My mother-in-law laughed dismissively. "Wait, she took and used my credit card?" For a moment, I thought I had misheard and looked at Ryan in confusion. It seemed that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law were both under the impression that the credit cards they took from the bag were mine. "Since it's Jennifer's credit card, I thought I'd use it to my heart's content, you know." My mother-in-law added with a tone that made it clear she had taken full advantage of what she thought was the opportunity. But why did she believe it was my credit card? As I pondered this, she added something even more appalling. "This is a good chance to teach you something. A daughter-in-law's money is my money. You married into our family, so it's only natural, right? You'll be paying the full amount for what we've used here. So when will the credit card be ready for you to use?" I was shocked by her brazen words and decided to ask her a question. Did you check the name on that credit card?" "Huh? What are you talking about?" "That's what I'm asking. Did you look at the name that's written on the card?" Just as I was thinking she shouldn't make me repeat myself, the loud and unpleasant voice of my mother-in-law quieted down. "Wait, this is Ryan's credit card? Why? How can that be?" Finally, she realized that the credit card wasn't mine but belonged to her son, Ryan. I could hear my mother-in-law and sister-in-law panicking over the phone. "Why is it Ryan's credit card? I took it from your wallet." To clarify the confusion for my mother-in-law, I explained, "Oh, didn't you know Ryan and I have matching wallets?" "What? Why would you do that?" "Indeed, my husband and I often have matching items, sometimes in different colors, but usually they are the same. That's why Ryan's wallet is identical to mine. But I took the wallet from your bag. So why is Ryan's wallet in your bag?" Patiently and kindly, I explained to my flustered mother-in-law. "Ryan doesn't usually carry his wallet on work days, but he does when we go out on a date. Whenever we go out together, he always ends up carrying my bag. I prefer to carry my own things, but he insists, saying it would be too heavy for me, and takes it from my hands. When there are many things to carry, a bag becomes a nuisance, so he doesn't bring one. Naturally, Ryan's wallet ends up in my bag since he doesn't carry a wallet to work. It usually stays in my bag." Hearing my explanation, my mother-in-law muttered discontentedly over the phone. For the record, I had hidden my wallet in a place they wouldn't find it because of their previous actions. So the only wallet in my bag was Ryan's. Moreover, I had hidden the bag containing Ryan's wallet deep in the closet too. Their determination to find it was relentless. It's a big problem that they rummage through bags and take out credit cards, but even more so that they use them without checking whose name is on them. I can hear my mother-in-law repeatedly saying, "But I thought it was Jennifer's wallet. You wouldn't think it's Ryan's wallet, would you?" If I had known it was Ryan's credit card from the start, I wouldn't have used it. No, why is it that my credit card could be used but not Ryan's? That logic didn't make sense to me, so I asked. I would never use my dear son's credit card, but you, on the other hand, are just an obstacle to me, so I thought it didn't matter how much I use. Upon hearing this despicable reasoning, Ryan lashed out at his mother. How can you do something so low to the person I love most? The mother-in-law retorted with, what do you mean by most beloved? And you're my precious son. It seemed she didn't understand the concept of letting go. Ryan calmly steered the conversation back to the main issue. You guys took someone's credit card and used it without permission. Pay back the full amount. Hearing his words, my mother-in-law and sister-in-law began screaming so much that my cell phone nearly broke from the howling. Then my sister-in-law began to argue with Ryan. We obviously don't have that kind of money. What are you thinking, asking for such an impossible thing? You say to pay it back, but we're stuck here because you stopped the credit card, truly careless. Why would they travel around without buying return tickets? Just thinking about how they intended to freely use someone else's credit card filled me with dread. Ryan seemed to be beyond anger, looking completely drained of strength. Then, my mother-in-law continued with something incomprehensible. If you want the full amount back, wire the money to my bank account right now. Oh, and include some for us to have fun with. Will you wait a minute? Why do we have to wire the money if we want the full amount back? Their thought process was beyond my common sense. It wasn't just illogical. It seemed insane. Why are you silent? Wire the money now. We can't get back home. Is that okay with you? They shouldn't have been apologetic for their mistake, but for some reason, they were acting brazen. Ryan couldn't take it anymore and yelled at the two. Are you insane? There's no way I'm wiring the money. How can you even say that? Figure it out yourselves and come back. Ryan's voice was low and filled with authority and volume. It must have been scary because the two of them finally fell silent. We added more pressure on them. Hey, what do you think you're doing? It seems like you've been causing trouble for Ryan and the others. A voice interrupted. What are you doing here? As it turned out, while I was dealing with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Ryan had contacted his father to report the situation. Then, a surprising truth came to light. Didn't you invite these two? I was told. I wasn't inviting them because I had work. They had apparently told my father-in-law that we had invited them. Of course, that wasn't true, and Ryan explained everything that had happened. Upon hearing the truth, my father-in-law was outraged, and while still connected to my mother-in-law's phone, he rushed over to our house. No, you see, that's not it. Listen to me, please. The mother-in-law and sister-in-law were flustered, making incomprehensible excuses, clearly more frightened than when Ryan had yelled at them. I don't want to hear any excuses. We're getting a divorce, and Susan, at your age, how can you not be ashamed of what you're doing? You must leave the house. From my father-in-law's mouth came talk of divorce and being kicked out. Ryan and I exchanged surprised glances at these unexpected words. What? You're joking, right? This divorce talk, it's a lie, right? At this point, do you think I'm lying? Once you get back, sign the divorce papers, pack your things, and leave right away. You could tell they were hit hard by his words. I couldn't help but think serves them right. To my father-in-law's response, not just my father-in-law, Ryan further cornered my mother-in-law and sister-in-law. Don't think you can even come to my house either. If you come again, I don't care how much noise you make or what the neighbors think, I won't hesitate to call the police. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law lost their words upon hearing what my father-in-law and Ryan said. They must have been deeply affected. Why are the $30,000 you wired to my bank account in one lump sum? If I can't confirm the transfer by the deadline, you'll have to deal with the police and a lawyer. Upon hearing this, my sister-in-law hurriedly wired the money. Ryan called to confirm the transfer and shouted, "If you had that amount available, you should have traveled with your own money." My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were trembling and apologizing over the phone. When Ryan tried to hang up, it seems like the two were apologizing and saying various pleas. Ryan decided to have no further contact and promptly blocked my mother-in-law and sister-in-law's numbers. Afterwards, my father-in-law apologized for not managing the two properly. I'm truly sorry. If only I had watched over them more properly, I would have noticed sooner. Ryan assured my father-in-law that he had done nothing wrong. No, Dad, you've done nothing wrong, so please don't apologize. He asked his father, who was still apologizing, to stop. With my mother-in-law and sister-in-law no longer visiting the house, our lives finally returned to peace. As for how my mother-in-law and sister-in-law managed to return home, it seems my sister-in-law used her own money to buy their tickets. They should have used their own money for the trip from the start, but they complained about not wanting to spend their savings. The worst part was hearing them say, "We wanted to use Jennifer's credit card for fun." Their characters were too twisted. In the end, they lost everything. Upon returning from Florida, they continued to apologize to my father-in-law, saying they regretted their actions. But his anger did not subside, and he promptly kicked them out, shouting, "Never cross my threshold again." My mother-in-law and sister-in-law shamelessly came to our house too, but when Ryan told them through the intercom, "I warned you. I will call the police," they ran away. Seeing that, we laughed so hard. With nowhere else to go, my mother-in-law reluctantly lived in a hotel, but having to repay about $30,000 along with the expenses in Florida and the airfare for returning home, their savings dwindled, and they began looking for a house. The cheap apartment they finally found was in terrible shape, with thin walls that would earn them knocks from the next room at even the slightest noise. Life in such a stressful environment led to accumulated stress. As a result, they became irritable over trivial matters, and it seems their arguments never ceased. Eventually, my sister-in-law shouted at my mother-in-law, "Why should I be the only one paying? Get out!" And so, my mother-in-law left. My mother-in-law visited relatives, but the story of their deeds had already spread. Consequently, with the impression of being thieves and insensitive, she was continuously turned away. Having left my sister-in-law's place on bad terms, my mother-in-law could not return and had to find a place on her own. Now living in an apartment even worse than the one she shared with my sister-in-law, though it was their own doing, my mother-in-law now works all day to scrape by, leading lonely lives without financial or emotional comfort. Amidst this, something wonderful happened for us. We finally conceived the child we had been longing for. My poor health and severe nausea were all because of the pregnancy. Now, in the stable period, I'm feeling settled. Occasionally, we invite my father-in-law over to spend joyous, laughter-filled time together. We can hardly wait for the baby to be born. Feeling all proud and important over just $300. I don't really need that small amount. Smirking, my son and his wife looked down on me, throwing mean words. I've been helping them out for 10 years since they claimed they were struggling with money. Even though I noticed they never got stable jobs, I kept quiet and tried to find ways to assist. And this is the gratitude I get. Why did I ever think of helping them? I believed that someday they would recognize my efforts and change their attitude. But that day never came. Isn't that a straightforward answer? I can't help but be mad at them, laughing it off like it's not a big deal or it's just a few cents after taking away 10 years of my time and savings. I've dedicated myself to my son and his wife without saying a word, but that stops today. I'm Mary, a homemaker in my 50s. Since my husband passed away, I've been living alone. We have a son. After finishing college, he moved out and now has a family with his wife. They live nearby, but honestly, we aren't on good terms. They're, let's say, a bit troublesome. After college, my son got a job at a company where he met his wife. She quit her job after getting married and became a full-time homemaker. But less than a year later, my son quit his job. Apparently, he had issues with his boss. Thinking he could easily find a new job, He threw everything away over one disagreement. But life didn't go as planned. Despite searching, he couldn't find a suitable job, and he eventually gave up on working altogether. His wife didn't seem interested in working either, and within a few months, they fell into financial hardship. In order to help them, I decided to give them a modest $300 every month. They were grateful and thanked me for the financial support. Every day, I hoped they would overcome their difficulties and become financially independent. However, after 10 years, my monthly $300 is no longer something they appreciate. It has turned into something they feel entitled to. For example, during a busy month with family events, I couldn't find time to meet my son and his wife on the usual day for their allowance. Late that night, they visited and knocked loudly on my door. "Mom, we need the allowance on time. Are you forgetting things because you're getting older?" My son teased. Exhausted and sleepy from busy days, I replied, "I'll give it to you another time. Please go home for now." His wife, visibly angry, retorted, "This is a monthly thing. You need to give it on time. Just because you're my husband's mother doesn't mean you can act this way." And she grabbed me by the collar. Shocked by the sudden confrontation, I ended up giving them the $300. If you had handed it over honestly from the start, this wouldn't have happened. We don't want to use force with you either. Listen to us and behave. If you ever lose your mind, we're the ones who will be looking after you. It wouldn't hurt to get in our good books now, right? Despite my anger, I refrained from retaliating, fearing that upsetting their pride might make them dependent again, as happened when my son quit his job. So I swallowed my feelings, smiled, apologized, and complied with their demands. In hindsight, I think I should have stood my ground. But my overwhelming desire for them to get back on track left me feeling powerless. The bad memories with them weren't limited to just that one day at work. I received a call from a concerned neighbor. "Mary, can we talk about your son and his wife?" "Oh dear, I'm sorry. I'll come right away." It turned out that when the neighbor returned from shopping, she noticed signs of a break-in. Reviewing the security footage, she was shocked to see the culprits were none other than my son and his wife. While her place was in disarray, nothing was stolen. Aware of my situation with them, she chose to inform me first. I left work early, contacted my son and his wife, and the three of us went to apologize. "I'm truly sorry." I kept apologizing, but my son and his wife showed no remorse. The neighbor seemed displeased, but we settled the matter when I agreed to compensate for the broken window. However, on the way back, they said something astonishing. "Why are older people so petty? We just wanted to borrow some stuff." I was so shocked that all I could manage was a feeble what. They continued, not even looking at me. "Yeah, we broke a window and made a mess, but we didn't steal anything. Isn't she overreacting?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My son simply nodded along. I should have definitely spoken my mind to them at that moment, without fear. My failure to do so revealed my weakness. Nonetheless, from that point onward, I noticed their increasingly aggressive behavior. Fortunately, they didn't cause any major issues aside from that incident with the neighbor. So I continued to provide for them, hoping they'd eventually become self-sufficient. Whenever they asked for something, I'd purchase it if I could afford it. My son wanted gadgets for socializing with friends, and his wife desired luxury brand items to avoid feeling inferior to others. Their demands escalated, and they started relying on me for everything. Even on my days off, they'd call me over to handle household chores. I worked tirelessly. They started asking for more than just money. Life requires money, and since they lacked both the means and the will to earn their own, I had no choice but to support them. No matter how exhausted I was, I committed to my job and completed any chores they asked for, even when I was drained. Consequently, I became worn out, with dark circles under my eyes, rough skin, and regular dizziness. My son and his wife laughed at me, saying, "You look like a monster." Furthermore, his wife pointed a finger at me, saying, "She's given up on being a woman." I didn't have the strength to respond to such hurtful words. Deep down, I sensed that I was approaching my breaking point, but I believed that if I stopped working and supporting them, both their lives and mine would unravel. So despite wanting to lean on someone and give up a long time ago, I pushed through and continued. To be honest, I had yearned to rely on someone's support for a while. While doing chores at my son's house one day, a minor incident triggered a fight due to my exhaustion and stress. Every little thing they did annoyed me. His wife made a snide comment, acting superior over just $300. My son, influenced by her words, said, "We don't need such a small amount," and handed back the $300 I had given them. On that day, they mocked and belittled me, saying, "If you're going to give us money, bring in more decent amount." Those words ignited a fire in me. Fine, I'll stop. Without considering the consequences or their feelings, the words just spilled out of my mouth. They looked confused when I started packing my things to leave, but then burst into laughter. "Come on, Mom, stop joking. If we left you, you'd be all alone. You wouldn't have the courage to live on your own without your precious son and his wife." "Mary, when did you become such a joker? That joke wasn't funny at all. You had me worried for a second there." They thought I was expressing frustration and not serious about ending the financial support. They continued to taunt me. "If you've got the courage, go ahead. But if you do, we'll cut ties with you. Think you can handle being all on your own? Come on, you'd want to take back those words in no time. There's no way your stubborn mom could do something like that, right?" They had no clue how cornered I felt, yet they continued to treat me poorly. I questioned the benefits of continuing to support them. By fulfilling their wishes and handling their household tasks, it seemed like I was being used and exploited. I felt like I was getting a raw deal, with my feelings being taken advantage of, treated like a servant, and this attitude persisting even when I was at my breaking point. Despite being family in name, their actions made it challenging to see them that way. "I'm serious, remember? You brought this on yourselves," I asserted, but they merely laughed it off, considering it a joke. "Go ahead and try, but you'll regret it soon. I can already see it," my son said. His words ignited a fire in my determination. I was determined to make them face the consequences. I would demonstrate my worth and make them realize the gravity of treating me so harshly. As I packed up to leave, my thoughts revolved around how I would bring them down. Initially, I followed through on my promise by cutting off all the support I had been providing to my son and his wife. No more money transfers, no financial assistance, and no more help around the house. Nothing. This was a departure from my usual behavior of living for the sake of my son and his wife. Now I could take a break without worrying about their needs. I could spend my money on myself and handle chores solely for my satisfaction. Experiencing this new way of living, I realized how wonderful it feels. Contrary to my son and his wife's belief that I couldn't break ties and live independently, I found myself living the independent life I had yearned for over a decade. Moreover, I decided to increase the pressure on them. I had taken on the lease for the apartment my son and his wife lived in when they faced eviction from their original place due to financial difficulties. Not only did I take on the lease, but I also paid the rent. With the decision to cut off all support, continuing to assist with the rent no longer made sense. Consequently, I contacted the real estate and opted to terminate the lease. The apartment manager, aware of our situation, was understanding. They were given a month's notice to vacate, or else they would be reported. That night, I texted my son and his wife, notifying them that if they don't move out within a month, it would become a legal matter. They read the message promptly, and within 5 minutes, my phone started ringing. "Mom, what the hell is this? Where are we supposed to live?" My son yelled as soon as I answered, with his wife in the background freaking out. "You may have forgotten, but I was the one covering the expenses for that apartment. I told you I was ending all assistance, didn't I? So naturally, I would cancel the lease too, right? We never agreed to that. You said you'd stop sending money, but we assumed you'd continue with everything else." I chuckled at his naive expectation, thinking, and replied, "Really?" All this while they continued to utter hurtful words to me. The notion that my son and his wife planned to keep receiving my support, excluding the allowance, left me bewildered. The incredibly naive mindset they displayed was mind-boggling. I allowed myself to be treated as they pleased for far too long. Even when expressing my discomfort, I always yielded to their demands, offering both money and time. All of this stemmed from a somewhat selfish desire of mine, hoping they would eventually become self-sufficient. I was mistaken, as they turned out to be the kind to exploit as much as they were pampered. In that case, it would have been wiser to assert my position and make them understand. I was the one providing an allowance, extending financial support beyond that, and handling their household chores. Regardless of how one looked at it, I held the upper hand, and they should have been grateful and respectful. Instead, they treated me with complete disrespect, as if I were merely a servant, a tool, an ATM, using me at their convenience. To add insult to injury, they even laughed at me when I was at my breaking point. Why did I exert so much effort for such an unreasonable couple? Despite their unfair treatment, I kept silent and let them have their way. Despite all my efforts, they never reciprocated my feelings. Only when I reached my breaking point did I realize how self-centered and disrespectful they truly were, and that they never really considered me as family. They might have seen me as a tool, but not as family, not even a little. Why didn't I grasp this sooner? Why did I persist until I felt overwhelmed? Why did I keep believing in them? In hindsight, my past actions seem pitiful. Despite believing that they would eventually become independent, I tirelessly supported them, only to realize it meant nothing. As I reflect on the past, anger towards them wells up within me. I need to express my grievances. I won't find satisfaction until they acknowledge their wrongs and apologize. With these feelings, I spoke up again. I'm going to stop the allowance but continue with the other support. What are you thinking? That's not going to happen. When my son tried to interject at my words, I cut him off. No buts. Understand this. Your lives have always relied on me. If I ever decided not to help you, if you upset me even once, your stability would crumble. Fortunately for you, I've been naive enough to hope that one day you'll be independent, that perhaps you won't need me to get by. Yes, Mom is kind. So you're not really going to abandon us, right? You just said those things in the heat of the moment, and now you can't take them back, so you're doing this, right? It's okay. We forgive you. Let's try to be a family again, okay? Don't be foolish. I've come to my senses. Despite all the support, you guys don't even want to be independent, do you? You just want to keep living comfortably on my dime, don't you? Attempting to backtrack, my son responded, That's not it. We did want to be independent, but we can't. We don't even feel like looking for jobs. My wife feels the same. We did our best in our way, but it was just impossible. Almost laughing at his response, I couldn't believe they claimed to have tried their best. I had been observing my son and his wife for years, and neither seemed to be putting effort into finding jobs or living frugally. They were merely enjoying a comfortable life on my support every day. How does that translate to they tried their best in their way? Listen, Mom, we're really grateful for everything you've done. We couldn't put it into words, but you've always gone above and beyond for us. We always knew that we're able to live because of you and that we'd be lost without you. So why don't we try again? You need us too, right? Are you kidding me? I don't need you. On one hand, there's a guy who's still stuck in some trouble he caused 10 years ago, never settling into a steady job and just being a lieabout. And on the other hand, there's a woman acting like a stay-at-home wife, never admonishing or supporting her husband, just doing whatever she pleases. You think I need folks like you too? You couldn't be more wrong. Do you have any idea how much I've had to endure because of you too? Day in, day out, working to make money for you. And even when I'm not working, I'm doing chores for you. There's no way that isn't tough. I've come to realize that I'm not naive enough to want to be family with you too after all that. Don't say such harsh things, Mom. We need you. Without someone like you supporting us all the time, we'd. Despite my words, my son continued to assert his perspective, disregarding mine. Unsure of what to do next, I suddenly heard a shout like, "Give me that." And then his wife took over the call. Mary, to be honest, I've been frustrated with my husband's selfish behavior too. Most men go out, work, and support their family, but he just wanders around, not working. Every day, I regret marrying him for my sake. I feel as wronged as you do. I'm a victim too. Please help me. Even if it's just me, I can't do this without you. Out of nowhere, his wife attempted to abandon him to save herself. Stunned by her audacity, she continued, "I'll do anything you need me to, whether it's housekeeping or anything else. Use me however you want. Please, Mary. Don't abandon me." After those words, I could hear the couple arguing again over the phone, struggling to control the call. Annoyed by the noise, I frowned, and it seemed like the phone got knocked out of hand and disconnected. Days passed without a call back from them. Apparently, their relationship deteriorated significantly after that incident, leading to their decision to divorce and go separate ways. They blamed each other and even fought over money. The dispute continued until they finally got divorced. After the divorce, both attempted to contact me, but by then, I had already blocked both of their numbers, so I never heard from them again. My son began working tirelessly at a factory job, barely making ends meet. On the other hand, his ex-wife tearfully returned to her parents' house, confessing everything. Her parents reprimanded her severely. She came to apologize, escorted by her parents, but she cried so much that I couldn't understand what she was saying. Since then, I've been living for myself. For 10 long years, their presence bound me, and I never had a moment to cherish my own time. Living a life centered around myself felt incredibly refreshing and irresistible. Although I ended up alone without them, I found comfort in that. I have no idea what the future holds. There might be a time when I won't be able to live just for myself, but for now, I think I'm going to live for me.